From the Ear to There Travel Studio, this is the Ear to There Disney Podcast.
The Ear to There Podcast, it's time to start the show. Be sure to hold on tight, here we go. Exploring all the different Disney destinations. Ear to There, it's time to start the fun.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Ear to There Disney Podcast. I am your magical host, Phil Gramlich. I almost couldn't get through that. I am also the owner and the founder of Ear to There Travel, which is a Disney specialized travel agency. It is my mission in life to take away all of that stress, all of that anxiety, and all that time that it takes to plan a Disney trip so you can focus on the fun things like having a phenomenal time with your family and friends and enjoying the magic. And I do all of that. I take away all of that stress, all of that anxiety, and all of that time that it takes at absolutely no extra cost to you. So yeah, booking through me would cost the same exact amount as booking directly through Disney, but I handle things like your fast passes, your dining reservations, your special event tickets, your transportation, flight, tickets to other theme parks. Excuse me, I don't know. I had to clear my throat there. I handle all of that at absolutely no extra cost to you. So I want to be your guide. I want to be the Dale to your Chip. Because listen, everyone knows that Chip was the smarter guy. He was the one out in front. He was the one making all the decisions. But Dale was in the background, and Dale was kind of silent, a little dopey, but he helped out a lot. And that's what I want to be. I want to be the Dale to your Chip, not to your Monterey Jack, not to your Gadget, but to your Chip. And if you get those last couple references, you and me, we could be really good friends. Man, we could be like best of friends. So you can find this podcast, my blog, my videos, or request a free, once again, we're going with the theme here, a free, no obligation quote over at eartotheretravel.com. Also, I want to hear from you about what you think about this week's show. So do me a favor, head over to eartotheretravel.com/message. Send me a Facebook message there. Let me know what you think about the show. If you like it, if you don't like it. That kind of actually reminds me of a Mitch Hedberg joke. If you listened to the show before, you know that Mitch Hedberg is my all-time favorite stand-up comic. And I'll do this with my best Mitch Hedberg voice. But one of his jokes was, I was in a death metal band. People either loved us or they hated us. Or they thought we were okay. I cracked myself up, but that's not me. That's a Mitch joke. So go to eartotheretravel.com/message and let me know what you think about this week's show. For everyone who sends me a message that way in the month of July, you will be entered into a contest to win a free candle from the Magic Candle Company. All right, the business is out of the way. It's time to get started. This is episode number 130 for the week of July 2nd, 2018. Now, grab a drink, grab a snack, and as a famous mouse once said, on with the show. And we're going to start off this episode of the Ear to There Disney Podcast, just like we start off every other numbered episode, and that is with the What About Bob segment of the show. That's where Disney legend and retired Imagineer Bob Gurr comes on the show to answer your questions and mine. If you're not quite sure who Bob is, Bob created things like the Matterhorn, both monorails on both coasts, of course. The Omni Mover system, which includes the Doom Buggies from the Haunted Mansion, the Autopia cars, the Main Street vehicles. The list goes on and on and on, and you don't stop. I have a weird 90s kind of hip-hop thing going on in my head these days. But if you'd like to get a question into Bob, please call the voice line. That phone number is 267-551-1971. Or you could always email that to me at phil@eartotheretravel.com. And just like every other week, this week's What About Bob segment is brought to you by the Waltland Bus Tour. That's where each and every month Bob takes a group of guests on a bus around Southern California. The bus makes stops in Glendale, in Burbank, and in Los Angeles. And you'll check out a lot of historic spots in the history of the Disney company, but more importantly, in the life of Walt Disney. To grab tickets for the Waltland Bus Tour, just head over to www.waltland.com. And without further ado, here he is, a man that Walt Disney personally hired in 1954, Mr. Bob Gurr.
It's What About Bob? Bob Gurr, the legend, creator of the Matterhorn, the monorails in the Haunted Mansion. What about Bob, the Disney legend?
Can you tell me about how you went from designing vehicles, ride vehicles, to developing the inner workings of the Lincoln animatronic figure?
Sure, that was real simple. Walt knew I was a car guy, and he always gave me any attraction that was going to have wheels on the bottom. That was standard. And then, as it turned out, I'm very, very busy designing the Ford Magic Skyway track, which took several years. And then I'd also did a little bit of preliminary work on Carousel of Progress, and then I designed the boats for the Small World. And then at the last second, Walt calls me over with my boss to the studio from where we were working in Glendale and shows me a figure of Abraham Lincoln and said they've been working on that about a year and they're out of time and it doesn't work. Because it was guys that are used to building stuff, heavy iron stuff in a machine shop, not engineering it. And Walt said, well, Bobby, I want half as much weight and twice as many motions, and I want you to get started on that right now. And so I wound up over about a 90-day period figuring out how humans work, where are the parts, where are the bearings, where are all the motions, and very quickly saw that a mechanical machine is a mechanical machine, and I just saw Lincoln as an airplane fuselage out of lightweight thin tubing, little aircraft bearings, parts, servos, valves, all that kind of stuff, in the shape of a human. So in other words, the motions of a human, the proportions between all of the body joints are very well-known standard proportional dimensions. That was easy. You could get that information in about 30 minutes. And then the next trick was how do you arrange all the structure that has to hold it up, and how do you leave space for all the big air valves, servo valves that go on the inside? And I thought, why didn't he do Grover Cleveland? I could have gotten all the parts in there so easy. But no, he's got this tall, skinny dude, and there's no room inside the body. But we managed to do that. And that was all hand-drawn. That was done by, you think in 3D in your mind, and then you make 3-view drawings of layouts of all of the parts, and you get the whole design where all the parts are cooperating, and then you start making layouts of the individual parts, and then hand them to the draftsman, who then take my layouts and make that into production drawings for every specific part, and then the shop builds it and sticks it all together, and it works.
Wow, I know that it sounds to me extremely complicated, but is that the same technique you used, years later when you built the King Kong animatronic for Universal?
Well, it was easier, after Lincoln, because now, I knew about vehicles, and now I know about humans. I can see how they work, and obviously how, animated animals would work. So by the time came time to do King Kong, it's a mammal. It just happens to be a 30-foot tall mammal, that's all, with a little bit different proportions. And the fact that it's bigger, there's more relative space on the inside, and it's a much, much easier machine to design, because as the machine goes up in size, the big internal parts don't go up as big. So there's more relative space inside. In fact, it turned out that in testing the 30-foot tall animated King Kong for Universal, a few days before opening, I had as many as 9 people inside it riding it while it's in motion.
Wow.
Which was quite a terrifying thought. Universal never did find out for years that I did that. But it shows the example of proportionality when you make a giant figure compared to a regular size like a Lincoln.
Thank you once again to Bob for answering yet another question on the show. What's really cool about Bob is he keeps a lot of stuff. So he has the original schematics for that Lincoln figure on the wall in his house. And then he has the actual scale model of the King Kong figure in his house as well. So he kind of gave us the tour and we got to see those up close and personal. It was such a neat thing. So thank you again to Bob for answering a question, and thank you to him for sharing his home with us yet again. It was such a cool, just an amazing experience. Okay, so here we go with episode number 130 that is all about Walt Disney World and America. It's right before July 4th here in the United States of America, which means it's just a couple of days before the 4th of July, obviously, or as it's known in this country, Independence Day. I know I'm not talking about the movie with Bill Pullman and Will Smith and the aliens, although that was a really good movie. The sequel wasn't good, but the original was very good. Remember Bill Pullman's speech as the president? "We will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight." Yeah, I remember that. I have that by heart. Okay. "We're going to live on. We're going to survive." Okay, so back to my original point. Walt Disney loved America. And yes, I know that's a stretch to go from a fake president to Walt Disney loving America, but sometimes that's just the way my mind goes. And just stay with me for the ride. You might be happy that you did. But Walt Disney loved America, and he loved to celebrate his country. I mean, think about when Disneyland opened in 1955, there was the red, white, and blue bunting on all of the windows. That was to signify that it was Independence Day in or on Main Street, USA every day. Walt Disney knew that he owed a lot of his success to the fact that he was born in the United States of America, and he had a great deal of love and respect for his country. It goes back all the way to the end of World War I when Walt wanted to enlist in the military. He was obviously too young. Then he applied to be an ambulance driver in the Red Cross. He was too young for that as well, although his mother allowed him to fudge his birth date. But when he was ultimately sent over to France at the end of World War I, the war had been over. So Walt served his country. He had a lot of respect for his country. And this episode is all about the touches, the American patriotic touches around Walt Disney World. So the first one I kind of wanted to talk about, and this is the controversial one, so we'll get this one out of the way right away. And that is, of course, the Hall of Presidents in Magic Kingdom. Now, this isn't going to be a political debate. There will never be a political debate on this show. I understand if you feel very strongly one way or the other about our government in the United States, about our president right now in the year 2018, but that's not what this is about. This is all about the historic attraction, the Hall of Presidents. Now, this one goes all the way back to Walt Disney and when he wanted an attraction like the Hall of Presidents in Disneyland. Now, after his original park, Disneyland, had become such a tremendous success, Walt Disney wanted to add a street that would cross Main Street, USA. This one would be called Liberty Street. And at the end of Liberty Street, Walt wanted an attraction or a show known as One Nation Under God. This would be basically a wax museum full of all of the presidents of the United States. Now, when that idea wasn't good enough, Walt wanted to further it by making all of those presidents audio animatronic or mechanical figures. Unfortunately for Walt back then, the technology simply didn't exist to put on a full show of audio animatronic figures. The technology was still very new. In fact, it was so new that the first ever audio animatronic human figure would come out of the idea for the show One Nation Under God. Of course, that figure was the Abraham Lincoln figure. Yes, the same one that Bob Gurr was talking about earlier on in the show. That was built by WED Enterprises, perfected by Bob Gurr, and ultimately became the show Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. So after Walt Disney passed away in December of 1966, plans had already been going on to build Walt Disney World, or then as it was called Disney World in Orlando, Florida. The Disney Imagineers wanted to differentiate this park a bit from Disneyland, so they decided to build an entire land based around colonial America, or based around that Liberty Street concept. So they created Liberty Square. Now, Liberty Square was created as the alternative to New Orleans Square out in Disneyland. So Liberty Square got the Haunted Mansion, and eventually Liberty Square got the attraction of One Nation Under God, or as it will be known in Liberty Square in Magic Kingdom, the Hall of Presidents. So there's your background on the attraction. The cool thing about the Hall of Presidents, and why I was so happy to see it reopened earlier this year, is there isn't a show like it anywhere else, not only on Disney property, but really anywhere else in the world. It has every single president the United States has ever had, which is an amazing kind of engineering feat in itself. But just watch the presidents when the current president is talking, or when Lincoln is talking. Watch the other presidents. Turn your head, look at them. You'll see them fidgeting. You'll see them checking their watches. You'll see them looking around. It's just, it looks and feels so real. It's just an amazing show. And what I love about it, and what I've always loved about it, is the roll call of all of the presidents. And all of the presidents acknowledge a bit when they are announced. It's really, really cool. Of course, it used to be narrated by Morgan Freeman between 2009 and 2017. And the current narrator, since it opened up again, is Joy Vandervoort Cobb. But the other voices, George Washington is played by David Morse. He's a character actor. You know him. I believe he was on a cab driver show called Hack. And he was also in The Green Mile. Pete Renaday, the great Disney character voice actor, he still plays Abraham Lincoln. And of course, the voice of the president, Donald Trump, is his own. All right, moving on to my next favorite patriotic thing in Walt Disney World. And you don't have to go very far, because this one is still in Liberty Square. It's actually right kind of next door, or right in the same building. And it's The Muppets Present Great Moments in American History. I love this show. I'm a kid, a Muppets kid at heart. I literally grew up on The Muppets. I remember some of my earliest memories were sitting on the couch in the apartment where I lived when I was a little kid, and just watching and laughing at The Muppet Show. I vividly remember it. So it should be no shock to you that I love this show. This one is a new one. It debuted in October of 2016. It features Kermit the Frog, Miss Piggy, Fozzie, Gonzo, and Sam Eagle, who, funny story about Sam Eagle, and I don't know if my brother actually listens to this show. If he does, Sean, hello. My brother Sean, for some reason, used to think Sam Eagle's name was Cup of Soup. That's true. And he wasn't that young. I mean, I think he was like 15. He wasn't 15. He's going to kill me. But he did think his name was Cup of Soup. Anyway, I don't know why. That's so weird. Anyway, it also stars a live cast member on the ground. See, all the Muppet characters are in windows on the second and third floor of the buildings. The live cast member is on the ground, and he plays James J.J. Jefferson, who is the town crier. Now, you're going to get one of two different shows here at Great Moments in American History. You're going to get the Declaration of Independence show, or you're going to get the Midnight Ride of Paul Revere. In the Declaration of Independence skit, you're going to have Thomas Jefferson, who's played by Kermit, John Adams, who's played by Gonzo, Ben Franklin, who's played by Fozzie, and Miss Piggy, who plays, which is really funny, both George Washington and King George III from England. You're probably asking yourself right now, how does that work if you haven't seen the show? Well, it works. It's a really funny show. For lack of a better word, it's cute. It's actually pretty historically accurate, and it has a lot of that Muppet humor. So if you grew up in the Muppets like I did, you're going to love the show. If you haven't seen it, the times are in the Times Guide for the park. Or when you're walking through Liberty Square, just look for a rope on the ground that's outside of the buildings by the Hall of Presidents. If there's a rope there and cast members keeping people behind the rope, that means the Muppets Great Moments in American History is just about to start. So just stop, grab your camera, watch the show for a couple minutes. You'll laugh. Really funny, really educational. And come on, it's the Muppets. And one fun fact about this that I didn't find out until doing a little bit of research for this episode is that due to the distance, because the Muppets are up in the windows, especially Sam Eagle, he's way up there, or Cup of Soup, I made myself laugh, is way up in the top of one of the buildings. So due to the distance from the audience, the Muppet figures were actually made a little larger than the Muppet figures you would see on TV because of that distance, so you can see them a little better. So not only does Magic Kingdom have one of the only Muppet shows out there, it also has enormous, giant Muppets. Okay, I thought that was interesting. All right, moving on to my next one. Let's go over to Epcot. And this one is, well, it's pretty obvious, but it's actually kind of a two-parter, right? So, of course, I'm talking about the American Adventure Pavilion. But the first, and the entire American Adventure Pavilion, so I cut myself off, which sometimes my brain does that. I start saying something and then I cut myself off and say something else. It's strange to live inside my head. Anyway, the entire American Adventure Pavilion kind of feels like home to me. West Philadelphia, born and raised on a playground, where I spent most of my days. I'm actually from Northwest Philadelphia, but it's close. And the entire American Adventure Pavilion feels like Philadelphia to me. Or if you're from Boston, it feels like some parts of Boston. It has that colonial feel to it. I love it. I love Liberty Square and the American Adventure Pavilion for those reasons. And hey, if you're in the American Adventure Pavilion, if you're in America, you might as well do as the Americans do. Head over to the Fife and Drum, grab yourself a Sam Adams seasonal, head over to the funnel cake stand, grab yourself an American classic, a funnel cake, and salute to the flag because it doesn't get a whole lot more American than that. No, I do enjoy both I enjoy the Sam Adams seasonal beer. I'm not a big funnel cake guy though, although they do have a seasonal pumpkin spice funnel cake over there that I love. And I just saw the pumpkin spice stuff is already coming out. It's July, people. We don't need pumpkin spice yet, all right? I like pumpkin as much as the next guy. As a matter of fact, I really like pumpkin, but we don't need pumpkin spice in July. Okay, off my soapbox. Here we go. Back to the American Adventure Pavilion. It's a two-parter, right? The first thing I want to talk about, or the first group I want to talk about, are the Voices of Liberty. Now, if you haven't heard the Voices of Liberty, go into the American Adventure Rotunda, that big kind of circular building inside the pavilion. That is where you will find most often the Voices of Liberty. They sing patriotic songs. They're all a cappella. It's a really, really, really cool show. So that's something, I mean, if you want to feel like, you want to feel like an American, even if you're not, and I don't know if you would want to if you were not, but that's where I go to feel my most American. But even more so is the second part of the pavilion, and it's the American Adventure Attraction. Now, this is a show inside that building It's narrated by the audio animatronic figures of Benjamin Franklin and Mark Twain. And it's a tour of the history of America with stops in the American Revolution, the Civil War, the Centennial, industrialization, the Great Depression, World War II. It has one of the most incredible stages and show systems ever built by Walt Disney Imagineering, where the actual stage, the actual main stage of the show rotates. It comes in and out of the floor. So these entire show scenes, these entire stages are built and they kind of rotate throughout the show. It's an amazing, amazing technological feat. And that's not the way to explain it. There's a couple of backstage tours where you can see how this theater works. It's truly just a remarkable piece of technology. It's just a great show with great music. It has songs like New World Bound that was written by Ex Atencio, who of course wrote the classic Disney songs Yo Ho, A Pirate's Life for Me, and Grim Grinning Ghosts. And it has Golden Dream, the song to end all Disney songs. And I'm not gonna, you know what, I am gonna sing it. It's like, America, you can keep dreaming now. Ooh. Okay, that's it. Trust me, you're gonna walk out of that theater singing that song, proud to be an American. So yeah, the American Adventure Pavilion, one of my favorite all-time patriotic spots or things in all of Walt Disney World. Now, another one that I'm going to go talk about for a second is kind of a throwaway, but it is truly a patriotic thing. And I mentioned him earlier. It's by one of the most patriotic fictional characters in the history of American television. Of course, that is Sam Eagle. And over in Muppet Vision 3D in Disney's Hollywood Studios, Kermit the Frog puts Sam in charge of the finale of Muppet Vision 3D. And when Kermit asks Sam what he has planned, and this is going to be my best Sam Eagle voice, Sam says, "It's a salute to all nations, but mostly America." That wasn't that bad. I was going to put the soundbite in, but I think that works. Okay. And then my favorite part later on in the show, Kermit asks Sam, "Are you ready with the finale yet?" And Sam says, "Of course, it's a glorious 3-hour finale." And Kermit goes, "You got a minute and a half." To which Sam replies, I love that part. Such a great classic scene in a classic show. I know a lot of changes are coming to Hollywood Studios, but I hope that one stays. I hope the show stays. And if not, hey, we'll always have it on YouTube. Okay, moving on. Back to Magic Kingdom for one of my other favorite or most favorite or one of the top patriotic attractions in all of Walt Disney World, and it is, of course, Walt Disney's Carousel of Progress. I love this attraction. It's one that Walt Disney has his fingerprints all over, which is a rare one in Walt Disney World, really. I mean, Walt's, you could walk in Walt's footsteps all over the place in Disneyland, but in Walt Disney World, it's a rare thing that Walt touched. So that's why I love this one. And of course, the Carousel of Progress takes you through the life of an American family through the entire 20th century. Now, according to various sources that have been kind of quoted through the years, it's been said that this was Walt Disney's absolute favorite attraction, and he believed that it never, ever should cease operation. And over the years, I've worried about it, and I've thought that it might go away, but in the last 18 months or so, Walt Disney World has kind of shown a new appreciation for the Carousel of Progress. The building got a new paint job, and new merchandise has been sold, so I hope, and it looks like it's not going anywhere. This one was built, of course, for the 1964-1965 New York World's Fair, and Walt Disney was there all the time helping work on this attraction. The reason I think it's so patriotic is it takes you through, of course, an American family's life, but it celebrates all of these individual holidays throughout the attraction. So from Halloween to Independence Day to Christmas, it's all in there. Of course, it starts out in the 1900s when John, our narrator, tells us it's right around the turn of the century. Oh, and it's Valentine's Day, and things could not be going any better than they are. Buildings are up to 20 stories tall. There are 8,000 automobiles on the road. And we have technology like gas lamps, telephones, cast iron stoves, ice boxes, and even a water pump in the kitchen. After you go through the whole 1900 scene, you hear the song, There's a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow, which was Walt Disney's favorite song, of course, written by the Sherman Brothers. You move on to the 1920s, and there's John again, of course, with Rover sitting on the floor in the kitchen. And John tells all about this new fella, Thomas Edison, who has brought electricity into the home. After he shows us all the new appliances, he worries that there will be a blown fuse, which, of course, there is. And poor Jimmy, John's son, has to go out and change the fuse. I could go on and on. I'm actually reciting this mostly from memory. Of course, Act number 3 is in the 40s. Act 4 takes us to the present day, or the 21st century. Or, of course, what Imagineers thought the 21st century would look like in 1993. It's one of my favorites. I love it. I know, listen, you might be listening to me now, kind of being a nerd and going over Walt Disney's Carousel of Progress and telling you how great it is. And you're saying, yeah, well, I go in there to take a nap, or my kids will never go in there. I have to tell you, we took my kids last trip, so in November, when they were all 5, when my twins were 5 and my oldest was 7, and they loved it. They were fascinated. They thought it was the coolest show. They loved everything about it. They were singing, There's a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow all day. So don't sell your kids short. Take them in, go see the show, see something that Walt Disney was so instrumental in bringing to the World's Fair, and then to Disneyland, and then eventually to Walt Disney World. It's a great show. It's patriotic. You'll leave feeling happy with the warm and fuzzies inside. I'm telling you, go see it. I know. I'll just keep telling you all day. Go see it, go see it, go see it. All right. The last one, the last patriotic attraction or experience that I wanted to bring up is in Magic Kingdom. It seems like a lot of this patriotic experience, a lot of these experiences are in the Magic Kingdom. Oh, excuse me, Magic Kingdom. Get rid of the. I keep forgetting. Anyway, I think it's because it has kind of its roots with the original park, with Disneyland. But the last thing I wanted to talk about is the flag retreat ceremony that happens every day in Town Square in Magic Kingdom. Now, if you haven't seen this is something that I'd really recommend that you take the time on your next trip to stop by Town Square and watch the flag retreat ceremony. It's at 5:30 p.m. every single day, and a guest veteran of the United States Armed Forces is chosen to participate in the flag retreat ceremony. This is a kind of a tribute or a thank you to all of our veterans and all of our members of the United States Armed Forces who have served in protecting this country. The Pledge of Allegiance is said, and then the American flag is lowered while the Philharmonic plays the Star-Spangled Banner. Members of the U.S. Color Guard then remove the flag from the staff and fold it, while the guests that are standing around Town Square are led in God Bless America. Then the guest veteran that was chosen earlier is handed the folded up flag, and then a short procession goes down Main Street while a handful of patriotic songs, U.S. military songs, are played by the Philharmonic. It is just an awesome, awesome, awesome moment. It makes you proud to be an American. It makes you proud and thankful to have these veterans who have served our country there in attendance with us. It's just an awesome moment. So on your next trip, on your next time that you're in Magic Kingdom at 5:30 p.m., of course, make sure you stop by Town Square, spend a few minutes, watch the flag retreat ceremony. You'll be very, very happy that you did. All right, that is going to do it for this week's episode of the Ear to There Disney Podcast. Thank you so much, as always, for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I love that there is still so much of Walt Disney's concept for the Great American Theme Park in Walt Disney World and in Magic Kingdom. It's also in Disneyland as well. So I hope the next time you're there, you take the time to kind of appreciate these patriotic moments in the parks. And also, I want to know, like I said at the beginning of the show, I want to know what you thought about this week's episode of the show. So just head on over to eartotheretravel.com/message and leave me a message there. Let me know what you thought about this episode, whether you liked it, you didn't like it. I mean, yeah, you can tell me if you didn't like it. It's cool. I'm a big boy. I can take the criticism. But if you do leave me a message, for every person that leaves me a message over there, you will be entered in a contest to win a candle from the Magic Candle Company. So yeah, that's every single person that leaves me a message in the month of July 2018. So again, that's eartotheretravel.com/message. All right, just remember, there will be a new episode of the Ear to There Disney podcast each and every Monday, or as close to as Monday as I can get it, as well as the new episode of the Ear to There Disney podcast Word of the Week, or It's a Food World on Wednesdays. So until next time, thank you again so much for listening. Have a phenomenal week. Happy 4th of July. Happy Independence Day. Be safe. Bye-bye.